possible to bring the lights down a bit so I can see? I can't see anybody. Anyway, thank you. Hopefully, was it okay?
Yeah.
Enjoy it? Yeah. You learned something?
Yeah.
That's good. All right, so time-wise, we're going to do a quick Q&A. If you've got any questions, any feedback, any suggestions. Honestly, like I said, that was my first time watching it all the way through. I didn't fall asleep. I think someone did. that's okay. Here we go. I can see everyone here. All right. So, firstly, a big thank you. I know there's some people here who were in the film. I think Sace is here. Sace is at the back. There he is from Activity. Woo! Olivia's up here. Dr. Olivia Ritazua over there. Thank you all so much for your time. Honestly, making a film, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of energy. And yeah, I know there's a lot of waiting around, so thank you. And Olivia got us LSE for free, which there's a reason we're not in LSE today, because it wasn't free. Right? So anyway, like I said, I'm going to go straight to, I'm going to take a few at the same time. I'm going to take a few hands and then we'll get through them, hopefully. You had your hand up very early with the hat.
Good evening, greetings to everyone. Oh, should I wait for the mic? Greetings, good evening to everyone, and pleased to be able to meet you in person. Kehinde Andrews. I'm wearing my Bunny Grant t-shirt tonight, having met him personally as well. I just really want to thank you for the film. I don't really want to talk about the film too much in front of everyone because I've studied quite a bit about Malcolm X, but I'm grateful for you putting together what you have, yeah, because it's always important to keep his memory alive. But what I would like to ask in terms of the film and Malcolm X is how important do you think it is that Marcus Garvey would have impacted on shaping Malcolm X to eventually be the kind of man that he became early on through the influence of the Most Honourable Elijah Muhammad. And the other thing is, would you be willing to support my book, Amy Jakes Garvey, Inspirational Queen Mother of Black Liberation, particularly because I was pleased to see that you emphasised towards the latter part of the film the respect that Malcolm X had for black women. Amy Jakes Garvey doesn't get enough accolades, so I'd really like your support with my new book. Thank you.
I know there's some hands in this area, so let's just take a few. Yeah, take you, and then we'll come here.
Yeah, I'd like to say, great documentary. Thank you, my brother. There's a couple of things. You mentioned a convention at the end, what you're creating. If you could give us more information about that and how maybe people can get involved. And the other thing is that maybe his mother, the female kind of strength of him. I really like the way you looked on that. So yeah, I'll give thanks.
Thank you. There's a hand here. I'll take 3 at a time.
Hi, thanks very much for the film. It was great. It does a really good job of rehabilitating Malcolm as a black intellectual rather than just a violent activist. And I'm sure the book does the same. Something I've been thinking about, not just the sort of black intellectual tradition, but the imprisoned black intellectual tradition. And there was, obviously I understand time constraints in your film, but I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on how Malcolm's time in prison kind of influenced his praxis.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I'll take those three, and then I think we'll go over there. I think there's a question on there, so I'll answer those 3 first. So, Garvey, hugely important. In fact, you might have noticed there was I went through Marcus Garvey Park on purpose, so there's the only little bit of Garvey in there. Largely with the film, is just trying to make sure what can you fit in the book, and I'm tempted just to say all the answers are in the book. Please go back to the book. Be enlightened. But no, Malcolm X is a Garveyite. Malcolm's fundamentally a Garveyite. Both his mother and his father are in the Garvey movement. That's what raises Malcolm. And if you actually look at the OAAU, it's essentially the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, radicalized. So the whole tradition of Malcolm is a Garveyite. So yeah, hugely influential. Amy Jakes Garvey, definitely support the book. I mean, it's Amy Jakes Garvey. The only real reason we know so much about Marcus Garvey is Amy Jakes Garvey. He puts together Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. It's Amy James Garvey, who also does the book Garvey and Garveyism as well. In her own right, she was writing for the Negro World. Amy James Garvey, massively important. Please do support this book, 100%. So yeah, Garveyism, huge. And one of the reasons why that's important, and I think is slightly an indictment to us, is the UNA was 1920s, 100 years ago, between 2 and 8 million black members around the world, 40 countries. You know what I mean? Something that we couldn't even imagine today. And they didn't have, barely had anything, barely had a telephone, right? No internet, no social media, no nothing. And managed to get millions of us together. And if you look at what Malcolm's saying at OAAU, that's the whole point. Bring us all together. Where's that organization that unifies all of us, which leads to Convention for African People? One of the things, for me, this is not, it's obviously a theory. It's like, I'm giving you Malcolm's intellectual thought, but also his practice. What is the mission? What is the legacy? And the OAAU is a constitution. And in 2013, that's my PhD, we founded Organization of Black Unity based on those principles. And the idea is you build out, so you have a Birmingham branch, a London branch, other branches you build out. And the problem was, and this is a big thing we have to acknowledge now, is that the only real difference between then and now is that the system opened up enough, Malcolm would have called it token integration, so that we think that we can be okay here. You think because that I'm a professor, that means you can be a professor too. Actually, you're more likely to die in the next 20 minutes than you are to become a professor. That's the statistics. Galoma, right? It's bad. And so one of the problems we found when we did OBU originally was that just trying to do it in Britain don't work. Because we're all on this more liberal reform thing. And so the Convention of African People was supposed to be actually in Gambia this year, but doing the practice of it, I didn't realize how difficult it was to organize on the continent. You think it's bad here, it's so much worse than Africa. So much. You can't even travel from one country to the next. Some countries you have to fly out of Africa to come back in. And you go in next door. Like, it's honestly insane. So we put it online. So it's May 17th and 18th. We've education, economics, health, and legal are the 4 different areas. We're going to have round tables. We've invited people. We've got people from Brazil who are tuning in, people from Kenya who are tuning in, people from all around the world. So everybody tune in. Let's have these round tables. Let's discuss what we want to do. Let's discuss how we're going to come together. And in April 2026, I've already booked the venue. I've already paid. We paid a big chunk. In fact, the Malcolm X book, there's people from Penguin here. Penguin are paying for this convention because they gave you money for the book. It all went into the film or it went into the convention. So we've already booked the venue. So there will be a convention of African people in Gambia next April. You are all welcome to come. All invited. Please do. Because that's Malcolm's mission, right? Connect us together. Locally, nationally, but also internationally as well. And the thing about prison, prison is really important. I mean, if Malcolm X doesn't go to prison, there's no Malcolm X. It's kind of that simple. It was in prison that Malcolm was broken down, and then had the time to rebuild. And that's one of the things we don't give ourselves credit enough. Is Malcolm really? It's not really even his family. It's not Elijah Muhammad. What saves Malcolm is reading. Go to prison and he just reads. He's reading, constantly reading. And he says when he started reading, it was as quick as snow falling off a roof in how he changed. And so there's something about prison. And actually, interesting enough, when I go to prisons, I can't believe they know who I am. I'm always surprised. Partly it's daytime TV. We watch it daytime TV. I guess if you're in prison, you've got little other things to do, right? But they will know. But there's a thirst for knowledge. So actually, one of the things we're going to start doing is the Black Studies in prisons. We're doing a correspondence course for Black Studies in prison because it is. No, it's important, and you shouldn't even clap because you should have done it before. So you shouldn't be saying, why didn't you do it earlier? So, because, and that's important as a space, and also as redemption, right? Like, you can't, why Malcolm is so powerful, and why the nation, I got a lot of criticism for the nation. Read the book, you'll find there's a lot of criticism for the nation. But one of the things they really do is they don't give up on people. So many of our politicians give up. Whereas the nation will go in and rehabilitate and clean people up. And without the nation, there's no Malcolm. So as much as you're going to hear lots of read the book, there'll be a lot of nation criticism, but also at the same time, there's something about that not discarding people, right? Going and getting the wretched of the earth. And if we're honest, who is the field Negro? If you are the lowest earning person in the UK, you're still in the top 80% earners in the world. The reality is we're all kind of in the house. We're still oppressed, don't get me wrong, we're still at the bottom of the house, but we're kind of in the house. And it's actually prisoners are one of the few people in the West who aren't in the house. And that revolutionary politics is really, really important. We don't lose the prison, 100%. All right, those are those 3 answers. I think there's Mike's up there.
Dinner, my brother Kehinde, and just to say congratulations on your film. I think it was very, very informative. Now, I may have missed some of it earlier on. Unfortunately, I was waiting for my son and he didn't arrive. But I didn't see to what extent, in terms of your research, did you connect with Pan-African liberation movements in the UK, who would obviously be not just benefited, but teaching and presenting and keeping the spirit of Omowale Malcolm X alive? To what extent, in terms of your research, were you able to connect with Pan-African organizations? And also, the term Pan-Africanism, I know it seems to have a lot of derogatory connotations, but to what extent also is the message of Malcolm about African culture, African heritage, and reviving traditional African spirituality? To what extent is that aspect of Omowale Malcolm X featured in your work, be it the book or the documentary? Tenda Abwali.
Any questions up there? Well, oh, there's a question here. We'll take this one as you will. In fact, while the mic's going, I'll answer this one quickly. So the start of the film, I talked to my parents, both of my parents importantly, because the Black Power movement in the UK. As I said before, this is not, for me, it's not really academic. I grew up in Arambi. I grew up, actually, African Caribbean Development Organization, if you don't know, in the UK, one of the oldest black-led organizations. I kind of grew up in this, right? And I wanted to give credit to that and say, actually, there's a long tradition of that in the UK. So the book is a production of that. I am a production of those spaces in a very real way. And so that's where all of this knowledge comes from. In terms of Pan-Africanism, connecting back to African culturally is important for Malcolm. He says, look, it's important that we connect back. One of the things that OAU was to have a cultural center in Harlem, because we have to connect spiritually and then we connect politically. But I also want to say that that's not enough, right? Like, that's important, but it's not enough. And we have to do that, and the reason we do that is to connect practically and economically. And then we have to go, and so, from one of the things Malcolm does, interestingly enough, when he leaves the Nation of Islam, he becomes more Muslim, more devout as a Muslim, right? Orthodox Islam, goes and does the Hajj, he's like more devout in many ways. But actually he says, look, as I'm devout, that's my religious perspective, that's for me. And that's not the solution. In the Nation, the solution was Islam. Their version of Islam, not really Islam, but their version of Islam, right? But when he becomes devout and embraces it, that's my thing. You can be a Christian and be in the movement as long as you're for us. You can be a Muslim and be as long as you're for us. And so as long as you're for us, have the belief you want, right? And he stresses that entirely because he knows what's the divisions, one of the major divisions between us is all of these religious divisions, right? So as long as we're going in the right direction, politically, practically, he says keep your religion at home, keep your religion between you and your God. Because it's just going to cause a fight. And so the connection we really, really need is that practical, political, economic connection. And any way we can get to that is the way we should get to that. All right, next question. Oh.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Andrews. That was a powerful film. I would like to ask, as you went to the London School of Economics, the last place where Malcolm gave a speech here in the UK, I'm not sure if many people are aware of the speech because it's not available. The only reason I know Malcolm was there because my father told me, because my father was a student there at the time and he met Malcolm. And it's I remember as a child when he told me this, I couldn't really believe that my dad met Malcolm X. And trying to find that speech online.
You can't find, the written version is, but you can't find it, there's no.
It is on it's on medium.com. Yeah, it's the only place. It's not on the LSE website. So, in that context, how do we ensure that information like that, I mean, we've all seen Buckley and Baldwin, those speeches, those were recorded, so we can find them. And I've tried to find the speech of Malcolm from on the LSE website. How do we interact with these institutions when they deliberately, because this is not an accident, they deliberately hold or hide or obfuscate these great speeches or these great works from our people, from wherever they happen to have been. Now, I would never have known about Malcolm if my dad didn't tell me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to know, how do we interact knowing that these things are still, I mean, I know what happened to Brother Hakim Ali with his course being cancelled and that, you know, so all of these things are still prevalent in today's society with people thinking we must go to their institutions in order to learn something when they're going to do us harm later on. How do we avoid that? Thank you, sir.
All right, how many more questions do we have? Because we're running out of time. So I know there's a hand here, there's a hand here, there's a hand in the front here, there's a hand in the back. All right. Big hand in the front down here. All right, we're gonna go there. This is it. I'm not gonna speak for a bit. We're gonna go there. Done. All right. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Prof, for such an excellent film. And I can imagine how expensive it might have been. And thank God Penguin is paying for something. I didn't see anything on Malcolm's travels in Africa. Any reason why?
There's a question?
Yeah.
I think there was a hand up there. Was it? There's a hand. Someone's waving at me. But I see this.
So, is there any information in that movie that you didn't share but you thought was really interesting?
Alright, we've got two more. I know there's a big hand here. You might have to share. It might be easy for you to share. Can you share?
I'm Miranda, one of the trustees here. My question is, where can we see more of your parents, please?
Parents. And the last question down in front. You need a mic? The mic's coming.
I don't need a mic, I've got a big mouth.
Okay.
Hello everybody, my name's Derek Marshall, just come out of hospital, I'm very sick. But I'm the CEO of the Malcolm X Family Foundation. We're based in Grenada. Now, one of the few things that didn't happen, and I'm glad it didn't because it gives me something to talk about, is Malcolm X's mother was born in Grenada. Now, for the people that know that, what they probably don't want to talk about is the fact that it was to a non-consensual relationship. And Malcolm's grandmother was only 10 at the time when she conceived the child. And that child was Louise. Now, there was a lot of trauma in the family, and Louise couldn't fit in anywhere. And it was that desire to fit in that drove her to move to Montreal, where her life started as a Garveyite. That's right. Some of the family, I own the land in Grenada with a team. We're trying to build a memorial for Malcolm, and it's something I'm going to personally try and raise a ticket for Kehinde to go to Grenada to help film about the history, which is Nigerian and Scottish. Yeah. I've actually located some of his ancestors in Scotland. They're ginger hair. For those of you that know about Malcolm will know he's got some fire in his eyes and on his head as well. He used to relax and dye his hair because it was ginger. He was the only child of the 8 who had ginger hair. And that was the fire in his belly. He was also lighter skinned than all the other children. Now, if we don't know about who Malcolm really is and his ancestry, it's really hard to understand what the world would be like behind him without him. And it's because of his ancestry and that unfortunate incident which actually created Malcolm's mum, Louise. Mr. Norton is his name. I've actually got a photograph of the rapist himself. I'm sorry to use such words, but this is the reality. But once we understand and we embrace, we're now 100 years on, these are some of the things that we can be dealing with. Yeah. And I have this gentleman here who's a writer who's actually helping me to write the unknown biography of Louise, and also all of the family who have all the birth certificates all the way back to Nigeria. Yeah. So we have Scottish, Nigerian, and Grenadian ancestry in Malcolm X. Yeah. So we can claim him as British, 1/4, about 32nd Nigerian, and like everybody else, just go to ancestry.com. Yeah. So if anyone's interested in supporting, I'm hoping to have an event at the House of Lords in a week or so. But most importantly, this lady is going to be helping me do a number of things, and there have been some things in the Voice newspaper, but due to illness and death in the family in Grenada, I've had to suppress a lot of information. But I can't commend Indra and his work enough, and we certainly would love to collaborate.
Thank you. No, thank you. That's important work. Usually I say Grenadian, so I don't know why I didn't mention this in the film, because usually I would say he's Grenadian, mother, but definitely. And actually, I was in Nigeria, and when I was in the airport, I saw a young brother who was the spitting image of young Malcolm X. But he was I wanted to get a picture, but he was like behind he was in a different line, and I couldn't catch him. Spitting image. Yeah, so that's really important work, because I think Malcolm's mother gets missed entirely. It's actually Malcolm's mother that tells him to love his blackness. Right? Malcolm's mother, who's the light-skinned one, who could have said, go embrace your lightness. Like, actually, I'm trying not to talk too long because we've got to kind of wrap up. But there's a bit in there when my mom, talking about my parents, says, you know, she's mixed race and she was encouraged to be as white as possible and to straighten her hair. That was a Jamaican dad. It was actually a white mom that said, nah, there was a white mom that was in the Pan-African movement in Manchester, right? But the colonialism in Jamaican dad was like, no, you got to straighten your hair, you got to be as white as possible, right? So credit to Malcolm's mom, who could have gone down that, I'm light-skinned route, and could have said to Malcolm, who was the fairest, had the red hair, go down the light-skinned route. No, it was Malcolm's mom who said, go and play in the sun. Go get as dark as possible. Like, embrace your blackness. Yeah. So hugely important. Where can you see my parents? You know, I'm actually going to write about it. I'm going to do not a memoir, because my life's not that interesting. I'm going to do a story of my parents, mostly, and then a bit of my story, because they're fascinating. Honestly, I sat down with my dad for like 3 hours, and we touched the surface of it. Mom, same way. I mean, she's born in '48, so that's a whole different experience. So you will definitely hear more about my parents in the future, certainly. And I think I'm going to put the whole. Thinking about the question about what was in there that I didn't put in. The plan is I only use like snippets of the interviews, obviously for space time. So Make It Plain podcast. I'm going to run the whole interviews. Okay. So you're going to have our intro, and then there'll be the whole interview. The whole interview with mom and dad, the whole interview with everybody, so you can get the whole picture. There are some things. Okay, so I put in most of the things I wanted to put in. The things I didn't put in, I'm not going to say because I didn't put them in for a reason. Don't ask me on the stage. Ask me when you get a book. I'll be honest. There was a question. There was a question about. Yeah, so I actually, you know what? I did that on purpose because I want to get somebody to fund an actual documentary on Malcolm in Africa. Because Malcolm travels so extensively in Africa. It's so untold a story. For me, that's a different story. And I really want to get some money to tell that story. So I didn't really mention it too much on purpose. It's kind of a strategy. Buy the book is in there 100%. Because that's what Malcolm's doing when he dies. Right? So it's very, very much part of the book, but like a separate project, I think, for the documentary. And there was another question. What was the question again? It was about oh, yeah, no, of course. I mean, look, you can't rely on these places, you know what they're like. How does it you surprised about LSE? I would say it's clearly a problem, but I'd say with someone like Malcolm, there's enough there. Like, there's enough there. Like that LSE speech, I've never heard it, but I've read it, so there's a transcript of it. There's enough there for someone like Malcolm that we know what there is. And I think, you see, one of the projects we do want to do, actually, and I'm trying to get money for, is to do an oral history of activism in the UK, black activism in the UK, because that's a story that nobody, I'm like, oh my God, it's so bad. Oh, it's so bad. And we're actually losing people. Somebody mentioned Elder Beanie Butwaka in Birmingham. Long-standing radical politics in Birmingham, but he had a stroke a few years ago, and now he can't really communicate. So we've lost a literal library that's gone. People pass away, we lost libraries of people. So it really is important. Actually, we're going to do that. I'm 100%, I'm going to say it now and I commit to it. As an organisation, whatever, we're going to get you to record your parents so that we can actually safeguard this history, because it's really not there. And all of this stress, nobody can give you freedom. You cannot rely on it. If we're relying on them, we'll be done. We'll be dead. We have to do it for ourselves. All right, so again, I'm going to say thank you. That was really good to see that it wasn't boring. I was really worried it's going to be boring. I was like, oh, it wasn't going to be boring. So this is great that you enjoyed the film. I remind you, the film is based on the book. The book has all the answers to your questions. I'm going to be at the back selling books. So please do get a copy. Please do support. All the money actually goes to the Organisation of Black Unity. We are doing Convention of African People. If you go to Make It Plain, make-it-plain.org, you'll find all the information about the Convention of African People. Harambee Organisation of Black Unity, that's something we're actually doing. We would like a London branch of that organisation. blackunity.org.uk, that's blackunity.org.uk. If you've signed up, you'll get an email from me anyway with all this information in it. This is not an intellectual project. This is a practical project. We need to pick up the real mission of Malcolm X, and we need to do it now. All right, thank you.
Yeah, go. shoes off, man.